All right, today we're going to completely change how you look at fresh ink and new piercings. Seriously, you know the drill, right? You get some body art, and at the very end of your appointment, you're handed this tiny, crumpled sheet of paper with a list of instructions. And for decades, the common belief has just kind of been that aftercare is basically whatever your artist prefers. Some say use a thick ointment, others say let it dry out. Or maybe they push whatever trendy soap is on the market. But we're going to challenge that idea right now. Because aftercare, it's not a preference. It is a highly coordinated biological event. For years, there was this massive myth in the tattoo community that you should just let a new tattoo dry out, form a hard scab, and eventually, just let it peel off. I guess it sounded tough, right? But it really begs the question, why do we still let tattoos scab? Okay, let's dive into this because science actually answered this a long, long time ago, and the answer is we absolutely shouldn't. Just look at this number for a second. 50%. All the way back in 1962, there was this seminal piece of wound care research by a scientist named Winter. He looked at partial thickness wounds in a porcine model, basically pigs, and he proved that a moist healing environment actually accelerates reepithelialization by roughly 50% compared to wounds left exposed to the air. Reepithelialization is just your skin growing a new barrier, by the way. Now, think about the clinical physics of this for a second. Epithelial cells physically migrate so much more efficiently across a moist, lubricated surface than they do when they're struggling under a dry, rigid scab. It's like trying to slide across a slip and slide versus dry concrete. So yeah, that old dry healing method, it's entirely contradicted by decades of established wound care research. So to understand how to heal right, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at applied biology. Second, the 4 healing phases. Third, ingredients. Fourth, tattoos versus piercings. And finally, some expert tips and FAQs. All right, kicking things off with Section 1. Aftercare is not a preference. This is applied wound healing biology. Think about it like this. The exact moment a needle breaks your skin, whether that's a tattoo machine or a piercing needle, your body has no idea it's receiving art. None. It only registers structural damage, and it immediately launches this clinical, highly predictable wound healing cascade just to protect you. I actually love this quote from Patrick. He's a veteran who's been manufacturing body jewelry for over 25 years. He notes that he's seen aftercare trends come and go like fashion seasons. But as he puts it, the products change, but the biology does not. So while studios might switch from handing out little pots of thick white cream one decade to recommending dry healing the next, the underlying cellular mechanics and the clinical physics of human tissue repair, those remain completely constant. Moving right along into Section 2, the 4 healing phases. Let's take a microscopic journey. Okay, so every single wound goes through these 4 very specific stages. First up is hemostasis, which happens in minutes to hours. This is basically your body forming a fibrin clot, providing a provisional physical matrix for all those incoming repair cells. Next is inflammation, spanning from day 1 to 6. Then comes proliferation, starting around day 4, where the wound actually contracts and the surface closes up. And finally, remodeling, which lasts anywhere from weeks to months. In this final stage, we see the clinical physics of tissue repair really go to work. The weaker collagen III is slowly replaced by much stronger collagen I, which gradually increases the tensile strength of the scar tissue. And this brilliantly illustrates why patience matters. If you apply the wrong product during that early inflammation stage, you can literally suffocate the matrix your body is trying so desperately to build. Let's actually focus on that inflammation phase for just a second. During the first few days, your new tattoo or piercing is probably going to be red, warm, swollen, maybe even produce a little clear fluid. And people naturally panic, right? They think, oh no, this is an infection. But actually, this is just the work of macrophages. These are the master regulator cells. They're in there clearing out debris and releasing growth factors to trigger the next phase of healing. So that warmth and swelling you're feeling, that's often just robust, totally healthy cellular activity doing exactly what it's supposed to do. On to Section 3, ingredients. Are they helping or harming? Let's talk about what actually goes on broken skin. Now, what's really interesting about this is the stark contrast between what we think is good for us and what biology actually demands. I mean, we all grew up dumping rubbing alcohol and hydrogen peroxide on scraped knees, right? But on fresh body art, no way. They are highly cytotoxic. You are actively destroying your own healing tissue and delaying wound closure when you apply these harsh solvents. I mean, they literally kill your fibroblasts and keratinocytes. Now contrast that with petrolatum or dimethicone. These are occlusive barriers, and they have a super low wound risk. They lock in that crucial moist environment we talked about earlier, accelerating the tissue repair. And fragrance, don't even get me started. It offers zero therapeutic benefit and is a massive contact allergen. Just keep it far, far away from broken skin. All right, section 4, tattoos versus piercings. Let's look at the anatomy of a wound. Let's move to and see how this builds, because the physical anatomy of these two body art forms dictates entirely different care routines. Think about the structural differences here for a second. A tattoo is thousands of shallow punctures into the dermis. Because it's a wide superficial abrasion, it needs wet healing. Applying a thin occlusive barrier, like petrolatum, for the first 3 to 5 days protects that massive surface area while it re-epithelializes. But a piercing is a single full-thickness channel, called a fistula, that is kept open by a foreign object. If you put that same thick occlusive ointment on a fresh piercing, you're going to physically block the openings of that channel. You'll trap moisture inside and create this localized, oxygen-deprived environment where bacteria just absolutely thrive. So piercings require sterile isotonic saline and a completely dry healing environment. Essentially, the anatomy of the wound dictates the physics of the aftercare. Wrapping up with Section 5, expert tips and FAQs. Let's get the veteran's verdict. Okay, first question, and this is a big one. Should I rotate my piercing jewelry during healing? If you got a piercing in the 90s or early 2000s, you were almost certainly told to twist the ring or stud when you cleaned it so the skin wouldn't, heal to the metal. Well, the answer is a definitive no. Think about the mechanical physics happening inside that piercing channel. Your body is trying so hard to build a delicate, fragile tube of new epithelial skin cells around the jewelry. So the crucial point is that when you rotate the jewelry, you're applying a shear force that physically tears that newly formed microtissue. You're basically setting your healing back to day one. Plus, you're dragging any bacteria sitting on the exposed part of the jewelry straight into the open wound. Just leave the jewelry alone. Clean the outside with sterile saline and let your amazing body do the work. Next up, can I use coconut oil on a new tattoo? This natural remedy trend is everywhere right now. People love natural ingredients, so it totally makes sense why this gets asked so often. But again, the answer is no. At least, absolutely not on a fresh, open wound. Now, while coconut oil is a fantastic moisturizer for a fully healed tattoo months down the line, putting unsterile cooking oil on day one ink is kind of like wrapping a burn in plastic wrap. It is simply not formulated for clinical wound care, and its occlusive properties create a greasy film that traps heat and external bacteria right against your super vulnerable tissue. You definitely want to stick to fragrance-free products specifically designed for those critical first few days of healing. Now, what about piercing bumps? This is especially common on cartilage piercings. Fixing a bump is basically an exercise in removing mechanical and chemical stress. From a clinical physics standpoint, localized pressure, like sleeping on the piercing or wearing tight headphones, physically forces the jewelry against that fragile healing tissue, causing hypertrophic scarring. Also, reactive metals leaching nickel will cause chronic inflammation. So you might actually need to switch to an implant-grade medical elastomer like Bioflex, which bends with the body and doesn't leach chemicals. Once that physical irritant is gone, return to a strict routine of sterile saline twice daily and keep it dry. And please, absolutely never use harsh home remedies like crushed aspirin paste or tea tree oil. Those will literally just chemically burn your already struggling tissue. At the end of the day, the products change, but the biology does not. You cannot fix a bad jewelry choice or physical trauma with some miracle cream, and you certainly can't rush cellular timelines. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. When you walk out of that studio, are you treating your body art as just a fashion statement, or are you respecting it as a complex biological event? Understanding the science is absolutely the best way to ensure your art heals beautifully. Thanks for hanging out with us for this explainer, and remember, always respect the biology.